How many of you are doing your doodle books? Doodle books.
I started to, but
Do doodle books. If you go to my website, to YouTube, and look up my doodle books, you know, the section on YouTube on doodle books, and look at the number of people that view my doodle book video. It is like unbelievable. It's like 250,000 people have watched that video. It's like doodling is the next new thing. And I have people that email me probably once or twice a week that are saying they love the idea of doing doodle books. Okay? Yes?
I've been getting emails that you can enter Zen Doodle contests.
Yeah, I mean, who knew when I started the whole doodle conversation that the whole world would be doodling? It's kind of like that 9th monkey thing or the 900th monkey thing. But anyway, so the way that we do the doodle books is that the difference between my intentional doodles as opposed to normal doodles. Normal doodles, you sit on the phone and you're going, yeah. You're on the phone and you start making things and you go, oh, that looks like a rabbit. You know, yeah, Frank, yeah. Well, your wife could come over tomorrow. And you start doodling like that, and you're kind of picking up the nuances. Some people do doodles like this. They'll do a triangle, and then they'll do another triangle, and then they do a... Some people start off with this, and they kind of start off with this, and they go, You know, but normally doodles, when you're done with them, you throw them away. So the difference between what I suggest as a doodle and what normal doodles are is that my doodles are intentional doodles. Okay, so the difference is that you're going to have a different attitude towards drawing. Now, if I told you to go home and draw in your sketchbook, the first thing that you will do is that you'll panic because your sketchbook you have been idolizing for years. You have bought the sketchbook when you first were starting to paint and you've held on to it forever. Maybe have 3 or 4 drawings in it, but you just can't quite find good enough drawings to put into it. So the first thing I would say you do is you take that relic and every 30 pages scribble on it. Rip a few pages up, throw it, you know, on the ground, you know, dirty that thing up so it doesn't mean so much because it's not going to do any good for your kids to inherit it. Okay? They're just going to put shopping notes in it. But take that doodle book out. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to intentionally doodle. So when you're sitting on the phone talking to somebody, or when you're at the bank and you know you carry your doodle book with you all over. And I've had some really clever people send in doodle books that are on chains and doodle books that they can carry in their purses and all this stuff because they've really taken this on that they try to doodle every day. And what you do is you sit down and look at something and doodle. So like if you're on the phone, don't just mindlessly doodle, but look across the way and look at a lamp. And just take the time out to doodle a lamp. And the reason why we call them doodles is because doodles are drawings that you're willing to throw away. They usually go in envelopes and then eventually they're tossed. These you're going to put into a sketchbook. But the problem is that if we call them sketches, you put too much emphasis on them, and then you go, oh, well, I don't draw very good, I'm not going to. These are doodles. Everybody doodles well. The main thing what we want to do is practice eye-hand coordination when we're doodling. Okay, so that has been the way that I have, and if you go to my initial doodling section on YouTube, you can watch that, and I go into the whole way that you doodle. What I found, though, because this is doodling part 2. I found when I was looking at a lot of the doodle books that my students were doing, is that they were doodling well. They would start doodling things in their living room. They would doodle their husbands. They would doodle their dogs. Sounds kind of funny. But the problem is that they would start becoming kind of monotonous in their doodling. That there's a way of learning when you're doing this that's fresh. And your mind will start following a routine. You know when you're doing something like licking envelopes for a wedding, you start doing it and it's uncomfortable at first, and then before you know it, you kind of get into the flow. And while you're in your flow, you start thinking about other things, and before you know it, your job's done. There's this moment where the brain takes over and you kind of are lost in an activity. Okay? So I looked at these drawings that people were doing, and they were doing hundreds of them. But I noticed that they started skipping out after a page or two. And I thought, it doesn't do any good if you sit there and you doodle and then you start kind of becoming absent-minded and you're not really training the brain. The brain almost needs an interruption to learn something new. Otherwise, you will do an entire doodle book and you will not learn anything. You'll get good at the beginning and then all of a sudden it starts fading. So what I've introduced to our new doodle books, and I want you all to start doodling this next 2 weeks. We're going to start off our talks with a doodle conversation, and I know that because Lavonne's going to remind me. Okay? Because she's going to be the leader here. She's going to have doodles like crazy. But what I want you to do, and you remind Lavonne in case she forgets. Okay? Send her an email. Because I know you will. Okay, so get your doodle books out. Now this is going to be the key here. Every 5 pages, now you might have 15 or 20 drawings on every page in the doodle book, but every 5 pages, if you're right-handed, I want you to write on the top of the page, left hand. If you're left-handed, every 5 pages, I want you to put right hand. Okay? And you go 5 pages, right hand, 5 pages, right hand, 5 pages, right hand. Okay. So you'll go through and you'll do 5 pages of the hand that you're predominant on. And then once you hit that page, you switch to a different hand. Okay? And you doodle on that one page that way. Now what this does is that it breaks the cycle of the brain becoming mundane, and it will start looking to correct or figure out things. And all of a sudden you start seeing things that you weren't seeing before, where the brain was simplifying things. You look over there and go, wow, that shape is different than I really thought when I was doing it this way. The brain really starts to go, and you're engaging the left side of the brain. You're turning the right side of the brain off, which becomes that side when you're driving and you're daydreaming, and switches over, and then the left side of the brain starts really analyzing things a little differently. The students have practiced this, switching over and then switching over. You can see their doodles going, and then they have this really awkward left-handed thing. And then all of a sudden, the next series of doodles are like twice as better than the first series, just by breaking the routine or the cycle. Yeah?
When you switch to your left hand, assuming you're right-handed, on that 5th page, are you doodling the same doodle that you did with your right hand?
Well, you're always
Pick out another.
You're always looking for a new doodle. I mean, you don't want to just doodle one thing. I mean, you're not doing a coffee cup for mine. That would be crazy. I mean, no, you're constantly looking. Like in here, you know, if you're sitting there, you would doodle him, her, you know, this back, you doodle me, you get all that. You'd go through all that, and then 5th page, and all of a sudden it's like, ah. So you might doodle me again because you're looking at me, but then you might go over and do the lamp, or you might do the easel. You'll find something else to do. But what happens is that you're causing the left brain to start engaging again and really analyzing. And then when you switch over to the right brain, the left brain is now still working. So don't do the left brain one. Don't switch over and then stop doodling, because you're not going to actually utilize what you've just done. You need to go through your doodles, hit the page, switch hands, force yourself to do 3 or 4 doodles on that page, switch over, start doodling again. And you'll notice a difference from the way you were doodling to the way the brain just works. And I've learned this actually from, you know, because I have a horse now. And so I'm watching horse tapes. And I noticed what they would do is that they would sit there and they would have a horse do a routine. And they said, if you continuously do the routine, the horse will actually forget what they're doing. Okay, so you have to break the routine. And I thought, how can I do that with the doodles? And I thought, switch hands. Another amazing thing that the students who have done this, they actually like working with their left hand. They were amazed at after a few of those doodles, how well they can draw with their left hand. So you'll have a new discovery in that. Okay? Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you just do a doodle with your right hand and your left hand? Because I'm afraid I won't find you on YouTube and I want to make sure I'm doodling right. And I already...
You can't, I can't teach you to doodle. Because you doodle anyway, don't you?
Yeah, but
Okay.
on your tape,
Yeah.
on your YouTube thing, I'm afraid I'll miss it. And when you doodle, do you just like I look at you and I just try to doodle your body?
Yeah, you just kind of head, eyes, hands, you know. Yeah, have you ever been like at an art lecture or somebody talking in front of the room and you just go, oh, some of you do it in my class because you're bored. You just kind of like, you just say, oh, can I draw him real quick? You know, those are doodles. Those are intentional doodles. But you know, when you're done, you close it up. You don't show it to anybody. And that's really an important thing about doodles too. Your doodle book should never be shared with anybody except me, of course. Because I just want to make sure that you're doodling correct. But they're not like fluffy drawings. They're not like insignificant. They're actually like you're trying to learn how to draw in a diary. And you're drawing your life, you're drawing things in a way that you have no attachment to, but you're trying to practice your eye, brain, and hand coordination. It's all just practice. The key to doing quality painting is learning how to draw. But a lot of students are not committed to learn how to draw. So this way you can practice, 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 and before you know it, you will be drawing yourself to success. You'll be amazed if you start doodling with mindlessly things that are complicated, not just, you know, I know a lot of students that take beginning drawing classes. And I immediately go, so how do you like that? And they go, oh, it's wonderful, we're doing cones and cups. And I'm like, okay, I'll give you 3 weeks. 3 weeks later, I go, how is it? They go, oh my God, I can't keep my eyes open. You know, it's just, nothing's more boring. If you're going to learn how to draw, you have to be in a nude figure drawing class with a teacher who's awesome. There's no other way to draw. If you want to learn how to draw, or do doodle books. Now, if you're in drawing classes, the first thing they do in drawing classes is they have you do gesture drawing. Okay? In gesture drawing, they're doodles. They're just really broad doodles to loosen you up. They're mindless. You wipe them off. You do another drawing. You wipe them off. They don't count. And consequently, they're awesome. They usually turn out really well.
Do you do it in pen?
Yeah, you do it in ink pen because you don't want to worry about it being accurate.
You do it without stopping the movement of the hand?
Yeah, you can do it without stopping. I suggest if you're going to do the doodle book, to do it in pen. Because that way you are not going to erase, you're not going to worry about getting it accurate. If you kind of make a mistake, you go harder to kind of cover it. But felt tip pens, markers, pens like that, they're awesome for that kind of thing. Okay? So doodle your way to becoming a successful drawer, I guarantee you. If you include changing your hand every 5 pages, you will be amazed at what happens to the brain and how it learns. There's actually a scientific basis for this in our head that comes from horse training, believe it or not. So, nonetheless.